welcome to the BrokeMan's podcast. We ask that you like, comment, and subscribe if you are on YouTube so that we can continue to push our message out there and let people know that they are not alone and have these awkward and meaningful conversations that are needed. If you're on Spotify, please refer a friend, send it out. And on YouTube, the link below will take you to our store where you can purchase merchandise, hats, hoodies, t-shirts, crop tops, however you feel, to support the podcast and allow us to move forward and build more. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And if you have any topics for a podcast or any subjects that you want to be talked about on the podcast, please send us a comment, email us, send us a message on our Instagram. Go follow us on every social media platform. And when we get that message about a topic you would like to bring up, if you like, we will also mention your name. And then we will have that important conversation. Thank you for listening. Welcome to the BrokeMan's podcast. Good evening. Today we are having Josh Levi on the podcast, and we are tackling accountability. But before we get started, we're going to give a little bit of gratitude. And today I am thankful for emotions and my baseline. I realize when I'm emotional, it's me, but it's not me at my baseline when I'm thinking and able to think through the emotions, good or bad.
I'm thankful for my friend group that I have and the people I have within my life.
That's talking about us.
I am talking about you guys that I can openly communicate with and share how I'm feeling about stuff.
And I'm grateful for friends, but for having friends that are able to tell you, hey, you're out of line right now. You need to reel it back in.
Oh yeah, that's a real one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
that works perfectly.
It does.
The topic for today too.
All right, go ahead, take off.
Yeah. So that works perfectly with our topic, accountability. So that works because that's your friends holding you accountable, which I think is so important. And with that, something that I wanted to talk about was recognizing not only when you're wrong, but being able to admit that and then to grow from that relationship with that. I think that's something that there's people that fall within three broad spectrums within that. I would say people that are over-apologetic. With that, people, you've probably had it in your own lives where it's just, oh, I'm sorry. They'll do it. Say sorry.
I used to do that.
Yeah, I think that everybody at one point.
When I was a young adult, I used to do that. Everything, I'm sorry.
It's like takes away the whole point of saying I'm sorry. Because
it does.
Saying it, and it's like, are you actually sorry, or are you just saying that to say it at that point?
Yeah.
When people do that now, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
What are you sorry for?
Right.
I used to do that a lot. And when I was a kid, I remember my dad actually stopping me from saying sorry. And he looked at me in the eyes and he was like, does that fill you with sorrow? And I went, man, no, not really. And he's like, when you say sorry, you need to mean it.
Yeah.
Because it's more than just a word. It's the strength of that word. If you're using it how you should be using it, then saying I'm sorry to somebody should be the first step to mending a relationship. Mm-hmm. If you're overdoing it and if you're using it in any little situation, then it just seems insincere and no one's going to truly believe the sincerity of that apology that you're trying to share.
Right. And are you actually taking accountability, or are you just saying I'm sorry to look better for the people around you?
Oh, that's a good one. I know when I apologize and when I say I'm sorry, I lead it with other conversations. Hey, I apologize for making you either feel this way, or I apologize for my actions and what I did to bring that on to making you feel that way.
Right.
And I back it up with explanation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I hold myself accountable for that too. I'll just say, hey, I'm sorry.
Right.
No, I say, well, I love explaining it because it actually helps me out and keeps me accountable for what I do in my own actions. So I explain it.
It also can help people put themselves in that scenario and kind of understand why you would have made that choice that you made,
And understanding you,
whether it was a poor choice or not, because they're able to see, oh, there was some other things that were going along with it. And that's not an excuse, but it's something where you're giving a reason behind it. And with that too, one thing that I have learned in my life works really well when you're trying to admit accountability and you're trying to be there for somebody is following up with that next step and being like, in the future, I will work on doing this or not doing this. I think that's something that's missed too, is correcting the action that you're apologizing for. Otherwise, what's to say it's not going to continue happening? And what's to say that you're not going to just forget that you apologize for something that seemed minor to you but may have been super and big?
You really got to keep yourself accountable for that too. When you actually apologize and you explain it, and to be sure you don't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you really got to check some dots with that one.
It's taking that, taking
What does check some dots mean? I don't know why I said that. Dot your teeth, cross your eyes. I don't know.
cross your eyes and dot your teeth.
Thank you. Yeah. Wow.
It's also taking it as a learning moment, and learning something about yourself. And
Check your dots.
Gary's taking accountability. He knows he said something wrong.
I said something to that to make no sense. No, check your dots. Check your dots.
But you recognized it and you corrected yourself. And in the future, I bet you're not going to say, I'm going to check my dots. I guarantee that much.
You remember, it's I'm going to cross my eyes and dot my T's. No, it's I'm going to
Cross my teeth and dot my eyes.
There I go.
All right, continue, Josh. Sorry.
So, along with taking accountability, it's also learning from it and, figuring out, hey, this is why I reacted this way, or this is why I did this, and how am I going to change that in the future? And not just be like, well, yeah, I did this.
Yeah.
Then that's just who I am.
Yeah. You're not only explaining it to them, but like you said, you're hearing yourself. And it can kind of give you more hindsight to think about your actions and why you did a certain thing.
Absolutely.
So I really like the way you phrase that. And then holding yourself accountable to that is how you're going to grow as a person. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody wants to grow as a person and become the best version of themselves. So hold that line with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Being accountable, showing up also. And accountability goes in every direction of your life you can think of. Holding yourself accountable when it comes to your routines, to tasks that you have to get done, holding yourself accountable to adulting, man.
Yep.
It is. And it takes a lot, but it is worth it. It is worth it. I'm behind on I am not behind on, but I have a lot of things I need to handle in my life, and I'm thankful that I chose to do it and handle it with accountability and make sure I do it. Because if I don't do it, I can't pay for my car. I can't buy a house. I can't do all these things. Like, I got to take care of tax. I got to do all this. Let's be accountable and on top of everything.
Yeah, there's stuff you have to do to get those checks, but with that too, it's you're holding yourself accountable and doing certain things on a day-to-day basis because it's a good habit for you to get into, and because with that habit, it's helping you grow as a person. Like one analogy I heard that kind of reminds me of this is you can plant a seed. You're not going to see it grow, right? So that growing is going to take time. All you can do is water it. So every time you're doing that thing that you don't want to do but is going to help you grow as a person, you're watering that seed. And little by little, it's going to start to grow.
Be accountable for your own growth.
Mm-hmm. It's not going to be an instant thing. You're not going to see it right away. Takes time.
You about to say something?
Yeah. So I was just going to say, I mean, it's the human nature that if we aren't constantly growing, we become stagnant, and then we just keep falling into the same bad patterns, and you're stuck, repeating the same motions over and over and over again. And without that growth, we're really just doing nothing.
Yep. And that kind of rings into my other type of accountability perfectly. Refusing to admit when you're wrong.
Yeah.
And
okay. Go ahead.
That's something that I've.
Don't say nothing. Go ahead, Levi. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's something that I've personally seen and experienced and done myself. Is you're so focused on what you think is right that you're not willing to admit any fault. You're not willing to budge. And I think that with that type of behavior and with that type of mindset, it's the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to burn bridges. It's going to affect relationships in your life, and it's showing that you can't even demonstrate humility.
Being, even in the field of work that we do or in anywhere in life, with a partner, with friends and whatnot, if you get something wrong, but you convince the other person that you're right, and now everybody believes you're right, even yourself. I've done that before, and that eats you up. Being that wrong and being accountable,
now when I do something and I walk away and I sit down and I'm sitting there like, I think through it. And if I'm wrong, I'll go and apologize. Biting that ego.
Yeah.
Like, swallowing that pride.
There's
Getting rid of dropping that ego
absolutely.
of being wrong. And now that I've learned through being around friends and my own inner work, admitting you're wrong is a strength.
Yeah.
It teaches you so much, and you're willing to be vulnerable to let that down in front of people. And that shows a lot of growth, and that opens up the doors for great friendships and even great dialogue inside the workplace.
Yeah.
Hey, I apologize. Even to somebody you don't want to apologize to, no matter how terrible they are as people. Yeah.
I will say,
Don't have to start dropping names. Listen,
no. I will say a couple of names. Don't apologize.
you won't.
Don't apologize with the intention of receiving an apology back.
Right. No.
Oh my! If you're apologizing with the intention of receiving an apology back, you're not apologizing.
No.
Aren't you sorry?
You're fishing.
Right.
You're make yourself feel better.
Absolutely.
You know, you're only looking at it from yourself's perspective. You're not thinking, is this actually going to help, or is this just me making myself feel better about it?
I've done that before. Oh man, as a dude.
Yeah.
It's like in relationships. And when I was young, I would do that.
Mm-hmm.
Once you sorry, like,
And then once you don't get that apology, what's your reaction?
your ego gets hurt because you don't get the win.
Right.
And winning is so important to a human being.
It is. And it's always about that.
It's always with that win.
Yeah.
Even when you're with your spouse or with the partner, it's just it's like that win.
You want to be like,
And you learn like what are you walking away? What are you getting?
Well, and that's something that like my wife and I have worked on is when we have an argument or we disagree on something, we have the understanding that neither of us is wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Neither of us are wrong. We both have this opinion. It's different opinions, but we can still talk about it.
Yep.
And we can still come to an understanding.
Yep.
But it's the thing is people want to be like, you're right, I'm wrong. They always want to play the you're wrong, I'm right game. And that's not what it's about. It's just about humbling yourself and being like, okay, let's talk about this as humans and work to solve the problem.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
It is.
it's to be humble yourself like that.
Yeah.
But with that, I think the you wanting to win, you're trading that individual wanting to win for you as a team wanting to win.
And it's a cost. It comes at a cost.
So switching that mindset, I think, is the hardest part too. Is instead of I'm right, you're wrong, how do we both get to a place where we can move forward together and stronger?
Absolutely. How do we come to this right, wrong, you, me, and then the understanding right here? How do you get underneath?
Because it's not a one-on-one; it's a y'all together.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
And that's a tough one, man.
Mm-hmm.
Admitting you're wrong and letting go of everything, and that biting feeling that grips you.
Yeah.
When you feel like you're right.
Yeah. Well,
especially when emotions get involved. You can't tell me nothing.
Just start blaming the world for everything. You won't recognize your own fault. You become self-righteous, and I'm not doing this, they're doing this, and they're doing this, and it's causing this. And like, if you can't never recognize, oh, I have a part to play, you can't have a part to play in the fixing, the thing.
I've watched myself do that to people. I've watched myself hurt people over me knowing, like in the middle of an argument, knowing I'm wrong.
Yeah. But you're stuck.
You're stuck.
Yeah.
And then I've been to a point where I didn't know I was wrong until I laid down in bed that night.
Yeah.
And I did not apologize. Next morning I woke up like, no, I'm not.
Well, then at that point, you're like, well, it's kind of too late. If you feel like I missed the opportunity now, it's like, how do I apologize, right? Because you feel like the moment's passed.
No, I was a little evil with that.
But even that, I had that too, where I'm like, I'm not apologizing.
I just let it ride.
I said, I'm not apologize. It's going to be awkward.
But that's wrong. It's right. It's completely wrong. I was completely wrong for that, and I hurt a lot of people with that. And when you start doing that, you start adding fuel to a potential breakup.
Yes.
It puts more discontent in your heart
and disconnect.
Yeah. Because it becomes something where you're not willing to apologize, so you're thinking that they're wrong. So then you spend your time looking at them with a critical eye, expecting them to do wrong, and then it's giving you reasons to be mad at them. So you're validating your own anger by looking for things to make.
And you got to hold on to it, especially if you know you're wrong. You got to hold on. That weighs a lot, and then that seeps into something else.
Well, and then also it's just a huge weight on the relationship. And not only that, you'll have the other person thinking, well, I'm always wrong. And then you're just like, getting that mindset.
You start to hurt someone.
Yeah, and they're like, well, maybe I am wrong. Maybe you're always right and I'm always wrong. And they start making like those passive aggressive comments like, well, it's because you're right, or something like, and it's like you put someone else
creating that.
Yes.
Start building those little monsters that always hide in the fog.
Yep.
And you start creating them. You feed them. Yeah, you give birth to them, everything, and then they grow into something, and next you know you break up.
Yeah. And that's the scary thing too, is if you don't realize that you're in that relationship and you're letting someone convince you that you're always wrong, that just leads to, like, that is an abusive behavior. It's going to lead to emotional abuse, because you're basically convincing somebody that they can do no right. Nothing they will do is going to be right, and that you know best for them.
Right.
And
Yes.
I don't think anybody should have that much power over another person's life.
Yeah, and you start to it gets real dark and even set.
Yeah. And
You don't that person
realize.
feels terrible.
Yeah.
And then they feel small.
Yeah.
And then it's like you're ruling over their life.
Yeah. It's a power and control thing.
Yes.
It's to have control over someone else.
And it's when you realize it too, it's like some people, when they realize it, it's I need to fix this. Right. But some people, they want that. And if you're someone who's experiencing the opposite end of that, where you feel like you're always wrong, I would keep that in mind, that there's some people out there who want that for you, because that's where they get their power from.
In relationships I've seen and I've been in, and relationships have taught me to, before I react, when there's something going on, before I react, I've learned to take a step back. And it gets tough. Taking a step back is tough. I don't care how long you've been in a relationship. Sometimes it'll still bite you. It'll still snatch at your emotions and your ego and everything else. Taking a step back and taking a breather. Because a lot of times when you do that, like you talked about earlier, there's an understanding. There's not a problem. You create a problem now, because you won't let that ego go and let that pride go, and just stop in a moment and take a breath and go sit down somewhere.
Well, and also people will think that, hey, taking a breath and walking away is you trying to avoid it. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's trying to get that clear mindset and to come down to your baseline to be like, okay, this is what's actually happening. It's not what I was thinking is happening. Now I can understand the situation and approach it correctly instead of keeping up at that heightened.
And that heightened feels you just...
Yes. As soon as it...
And it feels so right. Oh my gosh.
Because it's that fire.
Yeah, that fire.
Passion that you're feeling.
Passion, those emotions. Yes. I'm telling you right now, I am right all the time. I feel those. I am right all the time. Once I sit there and I sit and I get silent, and I have to, so I can register. And I run everything through my head, from what's happening on the left, right, forward in time, the ripple effect of everything I'm doing, what I'm actually doing, and where it comes from.
Yeah.
A lot of times when those arguments will start, it has nothing to do with the actual argument. No. It has something to do with something else. And I'll sit there like, oh shoot.
Yeah. It's usually you had a different issue, and then you just found someone else to redirect that anger to, because they might be an easier outlet, an easier target, or just someone that will be more willing to take that abuse.
An example, like if you have a boss and your boss is riding you pretty hard and they're yelling at you about something, and then you go home and you're like, well, I'm going to yell about this at the house. Like that's you taking out your anger. You're bringing it home with you, and you're not willing to like recognize that, oh, this is from something else. This is stemming from a different place.
I remember, and it's real. A lot of times when you first get in an argument, that's why letting somebody talk something through and shutting up and listening is some of the best things you can do, because they can find out for themselves where it's coming from. And a lot of times, I'll give an example with mine. When I was dating someone and I was being real snippy with them, real snippy and saying things out of pocket. Not outrageous, I call them out their name, but just saying things out of pocket. And this relationship was getting closer and closer to actually like real commitment. And I forget, I've never seen real commitment. I never grew up in real commitment, never grew up around that or anything. And so commitment scared me. I'd seen what it can do. I've seen the results of it, because I grew up in an unhealthy, broken home and all that. So I've seen the results of it. So as the commitment comes closer and people leaving my life, I've learned to leave people's life, and commitment gets closer. So as commitment got closer, those childhood waves start coming back.
Yeah.
Start coming back, and they came in waves of emotions and whatnot. And through being through other relationships, I was able to see that. I remember waking up at night and snapping out of it like, oh shoot, this had nothing to do with you.
Right.
This had nothing to do with you. But I thought I was right. And I was like, you did this and you did that. And blah, blah. And it had nothing to do with that. It was all childhood trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, sheesh, man, childhood trauma never goes away. It always comes back, but you learn how to manage it, and you learn how to recognize it faster.
Right.
And that's when you know you're getting some.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think that's the big part of it, is recognizing it and then being able to act through or think through, okay, am I letting this happen or am I going through this, or am I saying this because of something that I've been through, or is this how I'm truly feeling in this moment?
And that's real accountability. When you can do that, where you can start recognizing it.
Yep.
And letting your ego and letting that swallowing that pride and breathing through it, like you start to hold yourself accountable. Like, I need to work on this.
Right.
And that's a lot. I can remember it. I can feel it now that I speak about it too. It weighs heavy. And I remember during that span of time, and this is terrible as human beings, during that span of time where I felt like I was right, I was hurting that person.
Oh yeah.
I was damaging that person. I was having that person question their life. And their life now, their life before, and they just would sit there. And after I was very accountable with myself, I had to look at them, and I was like, I just did that to you.
Right.
So no matter how I apologize, which I'm going to do, and I'm going to explain it, no matter how I apologize, I still did that.
Yeah. Yeah. You still
have to be able to accept.
I still did. That person is still hurt. No matter how much I apologize and let them know that, hey, it was all me. But nope, I already did that.
Yep.
And so, yes, the human experience goes a long way.
Yeah.
It does. It's a ripple effect, man, on everything that we do.
Yeah.
So accountability in relationships, I find that to be very important. How do we handle accountability with friendships?
It's big, especially in our friendship and in the relationships that we have as men. It's something where if you're not holding your people accountable, then they're not going to progress with you. I think that all of us have a mindset of we want to grow as individuals.
Absolutely.
And if I'm not, like, I personally thrive with criticism. I need it because
oh my,
grow as a person.
do we need to get into that?
No, because you say I don't need it. What I mean by I need it is I
Tell me I'm terrible. Tell me I'm terrible.
That's not what I mean. I don't mean it like that. I mean, if there's something I can't recognize as a fault in myself.
Yeah.
If I can get that communicated to me by somebody else so that I'm able to address it and grow, that's something that I want to do. So I don't mean like
Back there right now.
be mean to me, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying like tell me I'm bad at my job. I'm saying like
That's what I got from it.
no, that's what you thought I meant when I said that, but that's not at all what I meant.
Okay.
It's the more of a coaching aspect of it. I want to grow as an individual, and I feel like I do that better with constructive criticism more than good job. I don't like the positive recognition as much. Like I know I do a good job,
Dang.
I do, but it's the teach me what I can do better at.
I agree.
That's what
I'm messing with you, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could talk about that work related off the mic and whatnot.
yeah.
There are plenty of things to get better about. Yeah. Accountability. How do you hold your friends accountable? What did I do?
You went from no, you're good to
No, I do believe you're good, but if you want to get into the nook and crane of everything, we can do that.
Yeah.
let's do
Yeah, I think they're like the little side lash is off by 2 centimeters, but
all right.
sorry, it's late. It's late, so now things get funny as it gets late. Okay.
I think also with accountability in the friendships, it's important to keep having that accountability. Even like I had an example the other day. Me and a coworker that I'm very close to, we got into an argument that I said some out of pocket stuff. He said some out of pocket stuff, and I immediately knew I was in the wrong. And I was like, and I got mad at myself because I'm like, well, now how do I take accountability for this? Because I felt like he was going to be gone for the night, so I didn't have any way to do that. And for me, I like to amend things, especially when I feel like I'm angry at someone or they're angry at me. I want to squash that before I go to bed. It's a weird thing, but I always, if you go to bed and you're angry at someone and they pass, the last thing you're stuck on is that anger. So to me, it was very important, and I kind of got frustrated with myself because I'm like, I let myself, my emotions and frustrations take over me, and now I feel like I don't have a chance to repair that. Luckily, he came back. I immediately pulled him aside and said, hey, look, I'm sorry. Hugged it out, had a great conversation, And that was just me stepping up and saying, hey, I did this wrong, and you held me accountable for it. Thank you. And I know I was wrong.
Accountability goes a long way. I recently had something where I agree with somebody and I didn't think about it. And I was like, you know what? I need to go back and tell them. And I was like, I need to hold myself accountable and go do that because I really didn't believe what they said was true.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually wanted to disagree, and I wanted to settle this in a healthy way with a small argument.
Yeah.
Like just healthy confrontation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I had to hold myself accountable and go up to them and do that. Like, hey, I take that back yesterday. I'm sorry I just jumped to just agreeing with you. Yeah, to make you feel better, but I don't really feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, it just, I go straight to it. Go for it.
I know, that was funny. That was funny to me. Yeah, I agree with you. Next day, come back. I actually take that back. I didn't agree with anything you said.
I take it
I was just feeling silly in that moment.
I was, and we're speaking. I was just, okay. Because I wasn't actually thinking. I was trying to get out of the conversation real quick so I go do something else.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, a lot of times we'll do that as like an avoidance tactic. You're trying to avoid what's being said, so you're just like agreeing with anything, just to get out of it.
And I wasn't giving myself the space to think. So I was like, I know it's gonna be tough, but I didn't agree with what you said.
Yeah,
that's something I do a lot. It's you're in the quick run of it. You're trying to get stuff done, and then you have to make a quick decision, and then somebody says something, and then you go, wait, what? Like,
wait, what?
Think about it again.
Wait a second.
Like,
No.
And that can happen, especially when you're. I think that's more. You have to slow yourself down, and I know that's something I got to do too. Is slow myself down.
Learning how to admit when you are wrong, that part of accountability I like the most because it shows so much growth, and it helps that person understand you more.
It's one of the hardest parts too.
Yeah,
because
men and women
humbling yourself.
Now get into the woman part.
Yeah,
I mean, for men, a lot of us feel it's a weakness to humble ourselves. Yeah, and to admit that fault is. A lot of guys think, well, if I admit fault, then I'm in the wrong and I'm weaker because I'm wrong, and then I'm having to apologize. And that's not even anywhere near the truth. You're actually stronger for admitting that you're wrong and accepting that, because then you're able to grow from it.
So if you're a parent at home and something goes wrong or you mess up, apologize to your kids. Apologize to your husband or your wife in front of the kids. Show them that. Apologize and let the kids know, hey, I was wrong.
Normalize it.
It is normalize it. Because a lot of times parents could just say something, no, it's wrong, and just going about their day.
Yeah, because they're like, well, I'm the parent.
Yeah, it's because I said so.
Yeah.
Because I said so, knowing they're wrong.
Yep.
Why? Because I said so.
Yeah, I'm the parent. That's why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there was multiple times when I was younger where I felt like I was like, I deserve an apology for that. That was out of pocket, man.
That was out of pocket.
And I never got that apology.
I never got it either.
It made it so that it felt like that wasn't fully resolved in that moment because you didn't get an apology out of it, but also you were afraid to approach that conversation again because of how it ended.
Being afraid to be wrong as a parent also.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that hurt me a lot too when I seen that, because I was like, why are you hitting me? It's like, I didn't do anything to deserve this. I shouldn't have got hit. I'm being a kid.
Yeah. Right.
And looking for that apology, and just nothing. And you got to go sit in the room hurt.
Yeah.
And then you try and ask that question again, you get whooped again.
Oh man, don't ask that question.
Exactly.
Man.
So it's not even
because I said so.
Because I said so. Yeah.
You can't question it. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
And that stops growth.
Yeah.
It does.
It stops growth within a child.
Especially if they don't have the hindsight to look back on that and see where the mistakes were made in that. If they're coming at it from the point of that's how things should be, then they're going to become a person in the future that refuses to apologize and refuses to accept fault. And I think a big part of that is truly shame, because they're afraid to admit when they're wrong.
Yes, please go with that.
It's being afraid to humble yourself and being afraid to shine light on the mistakes that you make within your own life, which everybody makes, but some people just don't want to acknowledge that they're making. They want to seem better than they are.
Well, because it makes they feel like, well, it'll make you feel bad, because you're like, well, what I did was really wrong. And that's that shame. You start to feel bad, and you're like, oh man, I don't like how that makes me feel. So I don't really want to confront it.
Yeah.
Because I know that this is a shameful thing to do, but it makes me feel so bad. I don't want to face it. I just want to ignore it.
That's true of being wrong.
Especially with being wrong.
Especially
Feeling bad is good sometimes.
laughing.
Feeling bad is good sometimes.
Part of the human experience is needed.
Yeah.
You need it to grow because there's remorse in that.
Yeah. And you need to be wrong. You can't always be right.
Yeah, it's
You know?
and thinking you're always right is
Yeah.
crazy. You got one hair. Okay, cool.
So y'all just gonna let it sit there the whole time?
I know. I said something.
He did say something.
I looked at Josh,
Yeah.
and he gave me a look like
He said Josh, he looked at me, and he looked at me, and I looked at Josh.
Yeah. I looked at. I told you.
You see me looking at you, looking at me, looking at you.
looking at me. I said it right away.
I wasn't going to say anything.
You would have let it
I
ride.
would have let it ride.
You
That's
would have
how I am,
owned it.
though. I'd let it ride.
And you know what? No apology after either.
Dang.